This is G and I'm back with another video. So I've actually been pretty busy today, so I'm sort of taking a little break to make this video, but it's Saturday, and you know what Saturday is, it's Catterday. So look upon RJ's fluffiness and his cuteness. Good boy. Back to bed you go. Okay, so I wanted to start off this video first addressing the video that I made yesterday about the anti-Japanese racist troll on Twitter. Now, the original title of this had mentioned IGN. It had been Meet IGN's anti-Japanese racist. Upon further review, and first of all, thank you to Dragon Kid 1801 for letting me know that this person is most likely a troll. I went back to the post earlier this morning, checked it, and I found a statement in the comments by a Ryan McCaffrey, right? Ryan McCaffrey, executive editor of previews at IGN, host of podcasts Unlocked and IGN Unfiltered and whatnot. And I found this, so it seems to be the same person, right? So got the check mark, and it says here on the side, executive editor of previews, pretty much the same thing as the IGN profile set. And Ryan says here that the account / person in question is not an employee or freelancer of IGN. We have flagged the account and misrepresentation of our brand to Twitter customer service. So, in light of this information, I went back, and the video itself has not been changed or altered, but the title I changed the description a bit, and as I said here in the pinned comment, says here that here we go. Upon learning that this person, the person who I'm talking about in the video, is most likely a troll and doesn't work for IGN, I have decided to change the name of the video and remove IGN from it. No need to call them out if they have nothing to do with it. All that being said, I stand by the content of the video itself. Tweet from Ryan McCaffrey, executive editor of previews of IGN at IGN, stating that the account person in question doesn't work at IGN and has been flagged for misrepresenting their brand. And then I link the two pages that I just showed you. And I also want to thank Dragon Kid 1801 for alerting me to the fact that this person is a troll. I should have done proper research first to make sure that the person in question actually was an employee of IGN. I humbly apologize. So that's pretty much what I have to say about it. I should have done or rather, I should not have done what I often criticize others for, and I should have looked into this a bit further, especially given my real world profession, which deals with assisting with investigations. So, for not following my own advice, I apologize. Again, the content of the video I stand by, because the content of the video was just calling her out on her racist statement. Troll or not, that's simply a racist statement to make about seeing Japan and only seeing terrible things. So I stand by the content of the video. But I apologize to IGN, and I apologize just in general for not ascertaining before I made the video that she actually worked for them. So for that, I am sorry, and I should have done my due diligence. So that's all that. Let's get to the video proper, right? Which is this particular tweet right here. This is from, I think, last week. It was up around Memorial Day, so that was the end of May, so that's like last week. I'd actually tried to make a video at the time addressing it, but my OBS software just would not cooperate with me that day, so I figured let me sort of take the time to address it now. So David here, who according to his Twitter bio is a graphic designer first and procrastinator second, shows video games and everything in between, right? And I want you to remember the fact that David, assuming this is a man, right, says themselves that they are a graphic designer because uh, design and graphics and visuals are going to become a big part of this conversation. So David here writes, or wrote, I should say, back on May 30th. Dear game devs, keep creating female protagonists like them. Not only are they cool as hell, but they make gamers mad. Now, of course, the images he's showing here are the new version of Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, Abby from The Last of Us 2, who was also, well, yes, she was a protagonist, I guess you could say a co protagonist in The Last of Us Part 2, but she's also the antagonist. You might want to highlight that. And then you have Ellie, right? Now, everybody's going to have an opinion about these characters and whether they were done well or whether they like their visuals or whatnot. But what frustrates me is this statement of they make gamers mad. Why would you want to create something that makes your customer base angry? Here's the thing: customers are always going to have opinions. They're always going to be opinionated, and yes, there are going to be some who are entitled or unreasonable. That's just par of the course for anything, for music, movies, TV, comics, books, anything. But I don't understand this trend, not just in video games, but just in geek media in general, and it's been here for the past several years now. This trend of going into it, right? Wanting to piss off your customer base. Why do you want to make them angry? Because angry customers eventually become disaffected customers who no longer care and who just stop buying the product after a certain point. You lose money that way. The effects may not be immediate, but sooner or later you are going to lose money, especially with gaming in particular, because it's a pretty expensive hobby to have and maintain, right? For example, if you're collecting comic books, especially from the mainstream, right? You spend like $5 a comic. You can take like $25 and get like 5 comics, right? It's relatively, um, what I should say rather is that the entry point for say comic collecting, if you just want to start buying comics and just read them and whatnot, is fairly low, right? Even comic prices that are considered expensive, like if a comic is $7 or if a comic is $10, it's still a much lower entry point price wise than with a video game. Where say you have a console, right? Consoles cost hundreds of dollars. Even the cheapest console, right, is still gonna be probably $200 plus. And the big name consoles like PlayStation and Xbox, those tend to be a good what, $400-500 at release. And even then, if you're willing and able to wait, they may drop it like $100 or $150, but that's still $400 or $350. It's still very very expensive. Now, of course, you can get handhelds and things like the Switch and all that, but that's not quite the same as a full rig powered video game system, a console, right? So you need this device, which is basically for some people, right, a good chunk of like rent money, right? Just to be able to play the games if you're a console player, right? And then the games themselves, right, are going to cost like a good $60 to $70 when they're released. And even when they go on sale, if you're willing to wait, it's going to be about $40, right? And of course, that's with console gaming, right? But let's say you're a PC gamer. Well, that's still incredibly expensive, right? Because you have to buy or build this very nice uh, computer that can run the game at the specs that you want it to, right? So still, computers are not cheap, even though they're much more easily available now than they were, say, 20, 30 years ago. They're still by no means cheap. The computer that I currently have, that I'm recording this on, which is fairly basic. It's not anything like special or any way unique. Still cost me nearly $1,000, right? I was not happy to pay that last year when I had to build a home office on the fly, and my computer alone was almost $1,000, right? So gaming is incredibly expensive because the hardware that you need, whether you're a console player, whether you're a PC person, right, is incredibly expensive. And then the games are very expensive, right? The price points are very high. And then, on top of all that, most video games today, right? Because when I was younger and I was gaming seriously, you bought a video game and then whatever was on it was whatever was on it. A few games might have had like an expansion pack, but that was fairly rare 20 or 30 or 25, 30, 35 years ago, right? These days, video games are more or less very piecemeal, right? You might buy like the base game, but then they entice you to purchase things like loot boxes, also known as gambling, right? But they entice you to purchase loot boxes, and many games will, offer like a DLC of a costume or character, or some sort of side story to have you spend money continuously even after you purchased the base game. I'll give an example. A few years ago, Street Fighter V came out with a season pass, right? And part of the advertising for the season pass mentioned that if you bought the season pass, you were going to unlock, right, download several fighters. Two of them, again, at the time, this was a few years ago. At the time, the two fighters that they were using to advertise for this season pass were Sagat and Sakura. They were literally trying to use two characters who have been in the games for decades, right? Sakura since the mid 90s with the Alpha series, and then Sagat, who's been in, I think, nearly, if I want to say every, but I'm not entirely positive, but nearly every major Street Fighter title, including the very first game. He's the boss character in the very first Street Fighter game. I know this because I've played it. So he's literally been part of the games for 30 plus years, and you want me to pay a 30 some dollars for a season pass to unlock a guy who, from my earliest memories, was always part of the game and always readily available. For me, that's a no. I'm not purchasing characters like Sakura or Sagat. I understand characters who maybe aren't featured often, like maybe Birdie or Rolento or Remy from like Street Fighter 3. I get all that, but I'm not paying money to play as Sagat or Sakura, right? Your sort of mainstay, mainstream characters who are a regular part of nearly every major title, right? But my point in all this is that you continue to pay money even after the initial purchase because of the um, pay to play DLC model and loot boxes and other things. So gaming is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly expensive hobby to start and then maintain. So why in the world you want to upset people who have the means to engage in this on a regular basis, or who know people, right? Because like kids, for example, they obviously don't have the money, but it's usually their parents, right? So to antagonize people who either on their own have the money to do this consistently, or the people like the children whose parents can buy this stuff consistently. Why in the world do you want to antagonize not just your player base, but your customer base, the people who spend a hell of a lot of money, is beyond me personally. Another thing that kind of irked me about this post is the fact that, in my opinion, it does not show respect for gaming's past, in particular, previous female protagonist, right? Because here's the thing, you don't get your alloys without your warrior characters like Tyrus Flare from Golden Axe, right? You don't get your Ellies and your Abbies and all that unless you have women like, say, Lara Croft back in the 90s, or Samus, right, back from 1986 with the original Metroid game. You have female protagonists now because we had them back then when I was a youngster growing up gaming. None of this is new. These three characters, however you feel about them or their appearance, right, they only exist now because of the heroines that existed when I was younger. So, can you please pay a little respect to gaming's history and to the classics, right? So, those were sort of my initial thoughts when I first saw this tweet, right? And then there is a second tweet here, right? And this, I was scrolling through the responses and I found this one later. So here's what David, who again is a graphic designer, says. Of course, we all have the freedom to like or dislike whatever we want, but that's different from criticizing these characters for looking like regular people rather than supermodels. And here's the thing, I expressed my opinion on Aloy's new look, and I said that, hey, I don't particularly like it. I think that her older look is better. And I got legit dog piled online because of that. I think it was either on the same day this came up, or the day previous. It was around this time. I got dogpiled from this way to Sunday. I had a person flat out say that it was okay to shame me because I did not share their opinion. I was insulted. I was called names. I was told I didn't understand or I didn't know my history when I mentioned that, hey, actually, makeup in the form of war paint and hair and hairstyles are actually important parts of warrior culture. I was repeatedly told that I don't know what I was talking about. Me, the person who literally has books on warrior culture, but I don't know what I'm talking about when I mentioned that, hey, makeup actually was a thing via the use of war paint, right? I was told from this way to that, right, that I was, and not only me, but my opinion was unwelcome. Now there were some people who were respectful in the debate, and I will give them credit. You know, we ended up agreeing to disagree, and that's fine. But the majority of responses I got that day were not about debating. They were about shouting me down and trying to shame me or otherwise try to beat me down and bully me for having a difference of opinion, for thinking that, younger Alloy, right, looks better than this version here, where she has what looks to me a very swollen, puffy face, where she looks like she got stung by a bee or something, right? So, to his point about we all have the freedom to like or dislike, yeah, but here's the thing: if you voice your dislike and the general consensus is that this is something that should be applauded and you don't applaud it, you get dogpiled. I wish David had acknowledged that in this tweet here or in other tweets, which I did look through. I didn't see him acknowledge that, right? So there's that. But that's different from criticizing these characters for looking like regular people rather than supermodels. No, it's not. You just said that we have the freedom to like or dislike whatever we want. That includes a character's appearance. That includes a person's appearance, whether or not they are fictional or real. Celebrities, all the time, are criticized for their appearance. They're too big, right? They're too fat. They've gained weight. They get criticized. They get slimmer. They get criticized, right? They get criticized on their hair. They get criticized on the outfits that they wear, and or their costumes or whatever it is. Any profession where you sort of are noticed for your looks is going to have people criticize you for your appearance. I'm a pro wrestling fan. It happens to men and to women in the business that people will criticize you for how you look, or for how your wrestling gear, or like the gear that you come to the ring in, to jackets, whatever, looks like. People are going to tell you exactly what they think, right? If you lost muscle, if you gained muscle, if you gained weight, if you lost weight, if you grew your hair out, if you cut your hair, if you're a man and you grew a beard or you shaved it, right? People are always going to mention what you look like when you're dealing with a visual medium, right? So, yes, people can and will and should criticize characters for their appearances, especially when we are talking about a visual medium and art form like video games, where a character's appearance is not about reality, right? Most video games don't take place in reality, right? They don't take place in the normal, mundane, everyday world. They take place in different realms, right? Or different alternate takes of the past or the present or the future, or in space or on different planets, or even stuff that is real but gets very exaggerated, like, say, first person shooters that are military based and all that, or things like, say, GTA, where, yes, crime happens, but they sort of play it up in this very exaggerated way to make the game fun and enjoyable, right? So most video games are not about depicting reality. Most media in general is not about depicting reality. If you want a depiction of reality, I would have normally said read or watch the news, but that's a lie too. So if you want a depiction of reality, go outside and live life. But most people are not interested in reality whenever they are watching or playing or engaging in something that is clearly fantasy, which, guess what? Woman living in a fictional fantasy world 1,000 years after the apocalypse is fantasy. These two living in a zombie apocalypse, or the aftermath of the zombie apocalypse, fantasy. Abby's appearance here, while it can be found in reality, is incredibly rare. The majority of women do not look like Abby and don't strive to look like her. Abby's body is based off of that of I think, a CrossFit athlete, right? A serious CrossFit athlete who does competitions, right? You have to live a certain way, eat a certain way, train a certain way for years and years and years and years and years to even get a quarter of what Abby looks like. So no, Abby does not look normal by any means. Her look is by no means common or standard in the real world. Same thing for Ellie, with the exception of perhaps, well, Ellie does look kind of normal, and that's fine. I didn't mean Ellie. Neither does Alloy, with the exception of the chubbier face here. I don't know too many women who wear tribal garb and run around with a curved sword, right? But what this is really about is how women are depicted in video games or other types of visual media, and more or less, in my opinion, a criticism or a complaint about why women, in particular women who are supposed to be the heroes of the story, right, are depicted as beautiful, right? It's because beauty, at least in my opinion, it's because beauty is attractive. We like to look at beautiful people and beautiful things. This is why, for example, we put people who work, say, in Hollywood on a pedestal, right? The world's sexiest man, right? Like the world's sexiest woman, because uh, being exceptionally good looking, again, is an exception. It's not common. So same way a person being like 6'8" is not common. Being exceptionally attractive in the real world is not common. So naturally, we sort of isolate that and we go, wow, this is exceptional. This is special. This is intriguing. This is attractive, right? So naturally, heroines, right? Your heroic women who you typically play as, in most instances, are going to be made to look beautiful because they're supposed to represent positive qualities, right? Strength, willingness to fight for something, right? Skill, right? Positive traits that are associated, generally speaking, with heroism. This is in part why Lara Croft looks beautiful, Samus Aran looks beautiful, Chun Li is beautiful, right? Beautiful character is an expression of the beautiful qualities that they possess. And that's not just in video games. You'll find that in comics. You'll find that in like ancient Greek art and art from other cultures. Your heroes who are meant to embody positive traits are generally going to have a very beautiful appearance, right? And there is nothing wrong with that. Now, I think it's okay, generally speaking, if you want to have, say, less traditionally attractive characters. A lot of people, when they were attacking me, were like, well, we don't need every character. I was like, I agree. Not every character needs to look like a knockout. But the characters who are exceptionally attractive, who are sexy, who are quote unquote knockouts, look like supermodels. Like, because Aloy's face, right, is based on a Danish actress. If you don't want people, or rather, if you don't want characters who are exceptionally good looking, don't use actual models and actresses, people who get by on their exceptionally attractive appearance, to be the face model for the characters then, if that's your concern. Right? But here's the thing. If a character starts out beautiful, like Aloy did in the first game, and suddenly she's not so attractive looking, and there's no explanation given as to why, then yeah, people are going to comment on it. You can have your Abbies, you can have your Zaryas from Overwatch. I just don't want the beautiful characters to be pushed out for these more, let's say, non-traditionally attractive. Because remember, Abby got a sex scene. Remember that. Ellie, to my knowledge, didn't get a sex scene. Alloy, to my knowledge, doesn't have a sex scene in her game. Abby got a completely pointless sex scene in her game, where, let's just put it, how do I put this without being too graphic? Where let's say she's not the driving force, right? She's not the one in control. She's definitely not the one on top. All right, she's the one bent over the table in the receiving position. Let's put it that way. And I want to be clear, I have no issue with the game featuring her in a sex scene. If that's what they want, that's what they want. There are a lot of people who found the scene icky, and that's their right. But I am not personally opposed to a sex scene in an M-rated game, same way I'm not opposed to a sex scene in an R-rated movie. Right? But if you want to have your Abbies and your Zaryas and all that, right? That's fine. But the sexy girls don't have to go away. The beautiful girls don't have to go away. And stuff like that. There is plenty of room at the table for both types. Okay? So that's the thing, right? People are always going to want to see beautiful people because we want to see ourselves in those beautiful people. We want to be as beautiful as they are. We know that we can't, but we try anyway, right? Because again, art is by and large symbolic. Most art is not about depicting a person or people as they look like or as they are. It's about depicting them as what we want to be, right? Which is usually better than what we currently are. And physical appearance is a large part of that. And this goes for men and women, right? Take a look at a lot of male characters in gaming. Solid Snake isn't ugly, right? Johnny Cage isn't ugly. Sub Zero isn't ugly. Nathan Drake isn't ugly, right? And many other male characters. Ryu from Street Fighter is not ugly. Hell, remember the hot Ryu skin, right, where he has the beard and no shirt, and he's got rippling muscles? It's called Hot Ryu for a reason. People found it attractive. And speaking of Street Fighter, this is a tweet I made a few days ago. For anyone who thinks the Alloy debate is only happening because she's female, remember the response to the Street Fighter V design of Ken? Lots of people took issue with it and were much happier with his Smash Brothers look because it looked like the Ken we all know in Dragon Punch with. So we see his, in my opinion, absolutely awful design from Street Fighter V, right? It's the one where he's in the black and he has the banana looking thing on his over his face. I guess that's supposed to be bangs or whatever. And it looks like his hair is pulled back in a ponytail and that super dark sunburned skin. And then you have his Smash Brothers appearance where it's closer to what he looked like in Street Fighter 2. Right? So the hair is shorter and by and large he looks a hell of a lot better. Because he looks like Ken. Ken is the pretty boy. He's always been depicted as very handsome, even as he got older in the series. Right? They would eventually give him a shorter haircut, right? But they kept him looking handsome because he's basically Fabio in the games. Same way with like Vega, right? Vega's whole thing is that he's a narcissist. He's vain, and he is obsessed over beauty. So naturally, he's good looking, and he wears a mask to make sure that no one can mar that pretty face. So if you were to suddenly make Vega ugly, people would complain because it literally goes against Vega's character archetype to be ugly in appearance. Ugly in spirit, sure, he's a villain, but not ugly in appearance. So if we ever got an ugly Vega, people would get upset too because it violates the character. Not because oh, he's a man and men can't be ugly or can be depicted as ugly, however you want to look at it. But like I said here, it's not about gender as much as people try to make it out to be. It's about, especially with characters like Ken or like Alloy, when there's an established appearance and people know what they're supposed to look like, when you go away from that in such a drastic fashion, you're gonna rattle the beehive. You are gonna piss people off. It happened even in comics with Captain Marvel when she went from Miss Marvel to Captain Marvel, right? They didn't just give her a different costume, but they gave her a different haircut. They gave her an entirely different body type. She went from being a very muscular, fit woman, a muscle babe, to now having this much slimmer look. And think about it, in reality, if somebody went from, big and jacked and muscular, and suddenly they slimmed down, next time that you saw them, you'd be like, what the heck happened to you? Where'd all the muscle go, right? Whenever there are extreme changes in appearance, you gain a lot of weight, you lose a lot of weight. Someone who hasn't seen you in a while is going to be surprised because it's like, well, the last time I saw you, right? That memory's etched in their brain. The last time I saw you, you looked one way, and now you look completely different. So when you drastically alter a character's appearance, like with Alloy or Captain Marvel or Ken, yeah, people are going to have a bit of a visceral response because you are now completely jacking up what they knew. It's like, okay, my brain says they should look like this, but now you done made them look like this You haven't explained to me why, and so now I'm upset, right? And that's just again human nature. But there's nothing wrong with having a beautiful heroine. Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the Blaze Fieldings or other type of beautiful women, or Lara Croft, right? They always get upset about her. She's been around for nearly 30 years and people still complain about the way she was originally depicted, calling it sexist because, oh no, how dare she have large breasts like a lot of women in the real world do. Right? But my point in all this is that you want to keep creating female protags like this. Okay, if that's what you want, but you shouldn't have to do away with the previous era of female characters, right? Just because you want to push these more, let's say, non-traditionally attractive types to the forefront, right? There is space in the gaming world for both. There is space in the gaming world for all types of characters. I kind of think of it like the character select screen in a fighting game, right? All different types of people, all different types of fighting styles. Some people are good, some people are bad, some people are really good looking, some people are in the middle, some are old, some are young, some are really ugly. Like in Mortal Kombat 3, you could pick, say, Sonya, right, who was very attractive, played by a real life model in that game, Carrie Hoskins, I think it was, right? Who literally dressed up as the character recently on Instagram and pretty much looks the same. It's been like 25 years and she still looks great, right? But you could choose to play as the beautiful but stern Sonya, or you could choose to play as the monster girl Shiva. We can have both. It doesn't have to be an either or thing. I just get tired of it being this either or thing. Oh, the sexy girls of yesteryear have to go, and the only thing we can have now are the, let's say, more androgynous, oftentimes masculinized, more non traditional women, right? There's room at the table for all, and that's all I'm asking for. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good day or night wherever you are. Bye.